Hi everybody, welcome to our lecture from the Sullivan text. We're going to be looking at Chapter 2 in today's video, which is 3 Interpersonal Approaches to Supervision. Maybe the clicker will work, I guess not. So this is the last portion of the Sullivan textbook that's really tied into theory before we really get going and speak about what practical application looks like. The authors really stress the importance of interpersonal skills more than anything else, and kind of what you do before an observation and after an observation. I think this is important, and we've already talked about this a little bit in class, that kind of, the pre and post observation skills matter, and they do make a difference as to how things are interpreted and in the teacher's level of confidence. So I do think it's important that we look at this in terms of the supervision model and what those interpersonal skills will look like. So we're going to go over those, and we're going to jump back to the Glickman book, and then we'll go back to talking a little bit more on Sullivan. So the textbook really stresses this idea that supervision comes in the form of active listening more than anything else. When you're doing supervision under the model that the authors propose, you should really be sitting there and listening to what's going on, seeing what's happening in the classroom, and your supervision takes place through listening and listening techniques. As supervisors, we tend more than anything else to get defensive. Basically, we're very likely to offer suggestions, tell people how we would have done things or how we expect something to be done, and that can be a challenge. If you listen appropriately and promote positive open responses and positive dialogue with your staff, that's going to be the most effective way to work things, and it's going to help you more as an instructor. One of the things when you have these conferences, and we'll look at the conferences when we talk about the Glickman text, is that you have to make sure that you're being productive in your conferences. If you offer suggestions, you need to make sure the suggestions are there to help, but sometimes it's too late and the suggestions don't help people. So it's important that you listen, reflect, and clarify with your people. Try to avoid the following barriers. Don't judge people. Don't offer solutions immediately, or avoiding the other's concerns. We're going to talk a little bit about each of these. One of the first things that we do that I think is a problem is this notion of judging. Offering empty feedback to our teachers can be a big problem, especially in this profession. Anytime that you tell somebody you did a good job, or nice job there, you're not giving them anything tangible. It's better off if you tell your teaching staff, I really like the way that you managed the classroom. I like the way that you dealt with this problem that happened. That stuff doesn't improve instruction, and that's the long-term goal of supervision. Your supervision is really there to help improve instruction. So one of the suggestions that our authors have really related to finding solutions is to avoid lecturing to your teaching staff. You have to accept your teachers as professionals, and the model that we really look at in the Glickman text, we're looking at directive control, directive informational, and collaborative, and pretty much complete teacher autonomy. It gives the teachers freedom to do what they want, and it gives them their own perceptions on what their classroom should look like, how they should act, and how they should present themselves. Try to avoid doing things like saying what I would do here is, or would be best to, because then you're lecturing and you're insulting somebody's professionalism, and you really don't want to do that. So you have to let the conversation turn to the teacher's concerns. If there's a problem with what the teacher's doing or trying to do, it's imperative that you as the instructor you as the supervisor will listen to their concerns and make sure that you can offer suggestions to help them, and whatever acts in the best interest of the teacher. I think that's important, and that's a big idea. And it's tough for me to really put this chapter where I have it, but I have to introduce this before we really go into the Glickman text. But everything I'm saying here is really going to be tied together when we go into the Glickman text. So I can't say enough how important that I think all conversations that matter, that mean anything, really should take place in person. If you're having conversations with people that aren't in person, you're doing them just by email or by telephone or even by text messages, you're not getting the full effect that you can possibly have with a face-to-face conversation with people. And I think that's very important in terms of supervision, because you want these conferences to make sense and to matter for all parties that are involved in them. I always say that email's okay, but sometimes you have to communicate with people through email for documentation purposes more than anything else, which obviously that's acceptable as well. So we're going to talk about the Glickman model, and we're going to talk about the 4 following elements. We're going to talk about the directive control, directive informational, collaborative, and self-directed. The key to this is, and I'm going to really go in depth on this when we look at Glickman, my belief is that you really have to supervise between directive informational and collaborative. In this directive control and self-directed are both fantasy lands. In directive control, your conferences just ridiculously mean you're the boss, you're telling what to do. In self-directed, you're just basically giving the staff autonomy to do whatever they want. So it includes, we're going to go over all 4 elements, but I think the 2 in the middle are the ones that matter, and they're the ones that really impact the supervision process more than anything else. So when we look at experiential learning, we're really thinking about this notion that you have to make sure that when you're doing supervision that the teachers are engaging the students and the students are actually doing something that matters and that can be an effective model of interaction with the teachers and the staff. So we'll go over all of these individually. They're the 4 parts of the experiential learning cycle, same way that we've looked at them in all the other classes, just mention what they are, and we'll look at each one of them individually. So concrete experience is the biggest no-brainer there is, because this is the actual doing. This is what the heart and soul of the lesson is, what the student is doing, what the teacher's doing to make sure that the students are engaged. The teacher should always, in the pre-observation conference, tell you what the concrete experience is and what the students are going to get out of doing the experience. Get out of doing the experience that they need to do. The student should be engaged in it, and the teacher should understand what that looks like. For observation and analysis, the teacher has to analyze the learning activities that are in the classroom. This is basically you giving feedback in a constructive way to the teacher, telling them what was good, what was bad, what could be improved upon. But I think the reflection element that's in here is equally important. The teacher should be able to reflect on how the lesson went in ways that it can improve in the future. But you also have to think about how and what the students were engaged in, what the students liked and disliked, because then you can tailor your future lessons off of the students' likes, and I think that's important as well. So abstract reconceptualization is a big mouthful. All that this means to me is that the students get the concept. And if you have to restructure something again and again and again and again and again until the students get it, that is no big deal, as long as in the end the students actually get what the concept is and they understand what the concept is. That is all that abstract reconceptualization is. It's just making sure that the students get something and that the supervisor has a clear knowledge of how the students are learning. And if they do that, then you have that concept. So active experimentation, this is when the teacher stops and tries something else if a lesson isn't working. This is a major taboo in a lot of supervision courses, but it's something that I value significantly. I can't say enough how important this is, and supervisors have to be okay with this, because good teachers will realize when something does not work appropriately, and then they'll stop it and they'll try something else. And the teacher shouldn't be punished if they do that. They should actually be rewarded for doing that, because at least they're trying something and they're not wasting the period. So that's it. I'm done with the Sullivan text for a while. The next chapter we look at is chapter 3, and when we do chapter 3, you're going to have to bring your textbook with you so that you can go through it, because when I put the slides on the overhead, I'm going to show you chapter 3. This is what this model looks like. This is what the picture of it looks like, and we're going to go from there. If I can do anything else to help, let me know. But that's kind of it for the Sullivan text for a while. We're going to revisit Glickman, and that's what our focus is going to be. Thank you.